Women, if you've been feeling like there's something deeply missing in your life, maybe you feel like you're on the wrong path and should be doing something where you're being of service to others, or maybe you're being creative. Maybe you don't know how to trust your own intuition, your own judgment, then your feminine energy could be depleted. This can leave you feeling disconnected from your true, authentic self and can drastically affect your relationships in terms of who you're attracting and how you're showing up in those relationships. And today, I'm going to tell you why this is a problem, why this is happening, and what you can do about it. My name is Gwen Allison. I'm a Reiki Master Teacher and a Transformational Life Coach. We all have both feminine and masculine, yin and yang energies within us, regardless of gender or sexual preference. That doesn't matter at all. We all have these energies, yin and yang. So it's important to become aware of these innate energies and gain some insight into how your feminine energy can become depleted, and know what to do if you desire to fully embody your divine feminine. So to better understand what's going on with your feminine yin essence, we first need to understand the different aspects of our masculine and feminine energies and how they show up, yeah? So both feminine and masculine have a divine and wounded aspect to themselves, and we can embody all of those. In order to find out where we are now, whether we're predominantly in the feminine or masculine, wounded or divine, I'm going to ask you to grab a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and just draw 4 squares. Just do a line going down, a line across. So you've got 4 quadrants, 4 squares there. And I'm just going to go through the aspects of both. So I'm going to look at the divine feminine and what those aspects are. I'm going to look at the wounded feminine, and then I'll also look at the divine masculine and the wounded masculine. And as you're hearing this, you can obviously write down in the relevant quadrants where you think you are. So you have 4 boxes, and you're just going to write divine feminine in one box, wounded feminine in the other box at the top maybe, then divine masculine in the bottom box, wounded masculine in the bottom box. Yeah. So you've got your 4 squares. I'm just going to go through, as I said, some of the aspects, first of all, starting with the divine feminine. So just speaking about these, and you can write down what you feel you resonate with, that you really, honestly, truly, authentically feel this is me. So these are the aspects of the divine feminine that you can see here on the screen. The divine feminine is the spiritual side of our essence. So the right side of the brain is also feminine. The right side of the brain is seen to be spiritual, creative, all of those aspects. And the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, which is also deemed to be feminine. So it's important that the divine feminine is essentially very connected to that spiritual side. Intuitive is another aspect. When we are connected to that spiritual side, we start to trust our intuition. So our divine feminine brings that intuition. There's no second guessing. We're not reaching out to understand what anybody else is thinking. We intuitively know, because we have that strong connection to ourselves, to our body, and to our spiritual energy. The divine feminine is also compassionate, feeling-based, very authentic, safely vulnerable, which basically means that we're able to express how we feel about something in a way that highlights our emotions. We might say, okay, when you did this yesterday, that hurt me, that felt really strange to me. So we can honestly express how we feel without feeling that we're going to be shamed for it, or we shouldn't be doing that, or feeling we need to put on a brave face. So being able to be safely vulnerable is one of the feminine aspects as well. This feminine energy, divine feminine energy, is very calming, very creative. This is creating anything. It could be painting, drawing, writing, making things. That's our divine feminine energy coming into play there. So visioning, when we're visualizing our future, creating our goals and things like that, this is all divine feminine energy. Healing and nurturing, very big aspect of the divine feminine, just naturally healing, naturally able to heal, and obviously nurturing another, very powerfully able to bring out the best in someone else, comfort someone else. The divine feminine has a desire to foster community, so they bring other people together. not just in terms of the family, but even wider than that. And if we think about traditionally, this is how we were in community right from the beginning. And it's only as time's gone by that everyone is living this more kind of isolated life. So the divine feminine very much brings people together, very much secure. This energy feels safe and secure. It doesn't need anyone else to make her feel that way or him feel that way. If you're more in your divine feminine energy, there is that security there. You know who you are. So that's there. A lot of wisdom in the divine feminine as well. Very loving and affectionate, as you can imagine, because of the compassionate side. And the divine feminine energy is open to receive help from others, to give to themselves as well. This is all this receiving energy. Nothing is pulled or grasped at. It's just naturally flowing, and there's an openness to receive without analysis, without judgment, without feeling that there's an energy of not good enough. It's just, yeah, this is for me, I'm receiving it. Yeah. There's also a very trusting element to the feminine energy, and that kind of goes together with what I've just said. So when we're trusting the universe, we're trusting we're okay, we don't need then to control or know what's going to happen. There's kind of a trust that we're going with the flow of the universe. There's a really beautiful surrendering to that higher energy that happens when we're in our divine feminine. And yet it brings us in flow, totally brings us in flow. So hopefully you've written down what you resonate with in one of your squares, maybe the top left square there. And so we're going to have a look at the wounded feminine now. So the wounded feminine, a lot of the opposites to the divine feminine. So very insecure, very needing other people to validate them, very codependent, a lack of boundaries here for their own or other people. So people take too much of their time, or they give too much and they don't replenish in any way. So this lack of boundaries will definitely leave us feeling depleted if we're not nurturing that side of ourselves. Overworking, overgiving, no boundaries of our time, all of that will leave us depleted. And particularly if you're in the healing space, then you might be doing back-to-back clients, never really saying no to anyone because you feel sorry for them. And as a result, you then feel depleted, yeah? People pleasing is a big aspect as well of the wounded feminine, wanting to, and that's part of the trying to feel safe, feeling we need the validation of others, we don't want to upset others, we don't want to put a foot wrong, we might become perfectionists through this route as well. So people pleasing is a big aspect. The wounded feminine is very over-emotional because they haven't learned to self-regulate. There's nothing wrong with our emotions. We're meant to sit with them. But if we haven't put some boundaries around that, we can over-exaggerate everything because everything then comes out in this flood of energy because we've been holding it in. So that over-emotional state is attributed to the wounded feminine. There could be a feeling of powerlessness, inauthenticity, simply because we're not able to be vulnerable. We are people-pleasing. We're not trusting our judgment. We're not making choices for ourselves. So it leaves us with this kind of inauthentic energy. We might feel very disconnected from our bodies as well as our intuition because we're constantly in our head worrying about what people are thinking, what are they doing, are they judging me, judging myself. And so we're very disconnected from our soma, our actual physical body in that sense. The wounded feminine can also rely heavily on the opinion of others because of that lack of trust. The wounded feminine may gossip a lot, complain. There'll be a lot of self-pity. There may be some manipulation through that self-pity as well. So again, writing down what resonated with you from the wounded feminine in the top right quadrant of your piece of paper, top right square. Yeah. Divine masculine. Let's have a look at some of the divine masculine aspects now. And again, writing down what you feel you already embody. So the divine masculine, left side of the brain, right side of the body. Very logical, very decisive, great at problem solving, very focused, action orientated as well. So the doer, the getting things done, very grounded and connected to the earth, whereas the feminine is more connected to heaven. Very present because of that grounded ability, that groundedness, and stable as you can imagine. There's a protectiveness with the divine masculine energy, a need to want to protect those they love, themselves, and things like that in a loving way. The provider, the giver, all part of the divine masculine. Very courageous, very purpose-driven, strong leadership skills as well there. The wounded masculine, hopefully you've written down anything you resonated with from the divine masculine side of things. The wounded masculine, very destructive, sabotaging, overly competitive, very intimidating, unstable. A lot of it is coming from their own wounds because of that. Very manipulative again. A weak leader, so they lead through force and threats and fear, basically. Very selfish, emotionally unavailable, perhaps due to past hurts and things that have gone on. They've closed their heart chakra. So that's part of the makeup of the wounded masculine. Very avoidant because of that emotional unavailability as well. Controlling and untrustworthy, so they may be deceitful in what they're doing. So yeah, writing down again what resonated with you in the wounded masculine. And as I said, this is regardless of gender, regardless of sexual preference. Yeah, we all have both energies there. And so for me, when I did this for myself many years ago, I was very much in my divine masculine. I was very much in the world of work. I was a single mom. So whether you're a single mom or single dad, you're taking on both roles. So you're moving more into the other role. I was a manager as well. So the leadership style thing was there. And initially, I think my leadership style was it was still divine masculine in the way I led. But then I moved more over to leading in a more feminine way, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I was very much in my divine masculine. When I think about my mom was very much in her wounded feminine. She was full of a lot of self-pity and probably understandably people-pleasing, codependent. She didn't have any boundaries at all. But she was also in her divine feminine in that she was very spiritual, very kind, very loving, very big heart. But predominantly, I would say she was in her wounded feminine for most of her life. So just having a look at where you predominantly are and just getting that understanding about yourself there. Let's have a look now at what can cause our divine feminine energy to become imbalanced. So several things have caused that in our life. Not many of these things are actually due to ourselves and things we're doing. We live in a patriarchal society, so it's very action orientated. Emotions are muted and frowned upon, and there's shame in showing emotion as well. There's a lot of violence in our world. There's a controlling element, lots of rules and regulations to keep people in their box. The corporate world is also very masculine in energy, most industries anyway. I was very much in IT, so that for me was very masculine in energy, and I mainly worked with really strong masculine energies. There's a lot of competition. It's a very analytical world, the corporate world, and very much based on material gain and reward, and it isn't a place where you are allowed to show your emotions, really. Things are changing a little bit now with thought leaders like Brené Brown, Simon Sinek, who I love, and they're talking about leadership in a different way, leading from the front, recognizing the value in everybody in the team, acknowledging that people are human beings as opposed to just a robot here to do a job and go home, and you have no connection with their life outside of the office or the job that they're doing. So things are changing, and even the well-being movement within the corporate world. So things are starting to move a little bit towards a divine feminine energy in terms of leadership style. And they're also finding, and there's been a few studies done on this, that it is a more productive style. We get more out of our team when we lead in that way because they feel seen, they feel appreciated. So the corporate world has a lot to do with why our feminine energy can be really depleted, as well as leadership roles. Similar thing, we've just talked about that. If you are in a leadership role in a masculine dominant environment, then you're probably going to fall into what everybody else is doing and how everybody else is leading. And if you have space to shift that, you can be a fabulous leader, even better leader, if you actually nurture the divine feminine side of you and lead from there, for sure. That's definitely what I found as well. As I mentioned before, being a single parent means that you're leaning more into one or the other. And generally, as I said, we are taught to suppress our emotions. in society today. We're not taught how to self-regulate. That's just coming in now, that people are learning that. People are finding things like CBT, coaches are talking about it with their clients. People are realizing that their emotions are not bad. It doesn't mean they're bad, that they can actually, they don't need to embody that emotion. They just need to observe it, sit with it with compassion. But traditionally in society in general, extreme emotions, grief, anger, sadness, they're all frowned upon, squashed, and it stays in our body, therefore, and we can't connect to that part of ourselves. We ourselves end up shutting that down, particularly with grief, right? So if you're going through grief, if you've sadly lost someone, in the Western world anyway, you have to be back at work in 5 days. You don't get much time off to grieve. It's not acknowledged in the same way it is in other cultures. So that gets stuck in your body. You've had to get on with it. You've lost someone dear to you and you've had to get on with things, go back to work. And so that suppression is very much part of the wounded masculine. And so this is something that we're not taught how to self-regulate, which is why things like anxiety and depression are prevalent, because things start really small and we ignore it and we push it down and we ignore it. And then this thing keeps smoldering and suddenly it ignites this massive fire in us that we can't control anymore. So yeah, that's a big reason why we are moving with depleted feminine energy. Our intuition, our psychic abilities, our imagination, all attributed to the divine feminine. These things get squashed for some of us quite early on in childhood. Many of us in the spiritual world and the holistic world were experiencing things in childhood, feeling things, seeing things that the adults in our lives couldn't explain and squashed down or made bad. So we didn't develop our intuitive side or our psychic abilities and things like that. And then imagination, as an adult, that's not meant to be a thing. Children are allowed to imagine and play and see and pretend. And then suddenly we get to a certain age and then boop, it all stops and it's all about exams and structure and things like that. So a return to that is going to really fortify our feminine energy, but is also a reason why it's depleted in the first place. And these things are quashed out of fear and misunderstanding and things like that. Our childhood experiences can definitely shape how much divine feminine energy we're holding. If we were brought up and we had to defend ourselves or toughen up, that is putting us in our wounded masculine. That was definitely my experience. I saw how my dad treated my mom and I wasn't going to have that. Built this armor. I was strong. I wasn't vulnerable. I was definitely moving into my wounded masculine energy with that decision to be like that. And it happens out of survival, needing to survive for a lot of people. So there's no blaming any of this, right? It's just understanding where it's come from. The other thing in childhood is we can go the other way. Rather than being taught how to defend ourselves, we teach ourselves that if we please everybody, everything is okay. And so this is very much a wounded feminine energy where we are abandoning our own choices, our own rights and our own wisdom to please someone else. And that carries through into our adulthood. Yeah. So how do we embody our divine feminine? How do you do this if your divine feminine is depleted? What can you do to buoy that up again, to embody that again, to imbue that again in you? So I'm going to go through some things here. So you may want to, again, get your journal, pen and paper and write some things down. So we can adopt a daily spiritual practice. That could be reiki, which is what I do. It could be meditation, which is also what I do. It could be yoga. It could be tai chi, qigong. Something that connects you with the deeper part of you, the part of you that is just for you and isn't about going out and helping everybody else and doing what everybody else wants. But you've carved up some time in your day to focus inwards and connect more with the spiritual aspect of you, which is the larger part of you. The larger part of you is spirituality. So connecting to that is really going to please implicate the right side of our brain, the spiritual part of our brain. And I guess married with that is an ability then in that space of quiet and going inwards, we're able to listen and trust our intuition. We're able to listen to what's coming up for us listen to what our guides and guardian angels are trying to download to us, to speak to us, because we're no longer in the analytical, chatty mind. We can hear these words of wisdom. So having a daily practice, learning to listen to yourself and trust your intuition. And that might also include making choices for yourself, even if you don't care about a particular decision. We'd normally surrender that ability to choose and say, oh, it's fine, you choose for me, it doesn't matter. Consciously make choices, consciously choose, so that, you're practicing choosing for yourself and trusting yourself. You can also connect to your sacral chakra. So your sacral chakra is below your navel. And so that is a seat of our feminine energy as well. And we really want to make sure that is balanced out and in harmony with our masculine energy. So giving some love and some healing to this space, placing your hands on this space and connecting, maybe seeing some light going into there, maybe thinking words of compassion and forgiveness for that space, for your sacral chakra, because we do store a lot of guilt and shame in that part of our body. So connecting to your sacral chakra, perhaps through Reiki, perhaps through somatics, perhaps through breath work, which is that deeper breathing into the hara. So that will also start to build up your feminine energy, your divine feminine energy. Movement is another great thing to embody the divine feminine. Moving the hips especially, maybe through dance or salsa or Zumba, belly dancing. Even in how we walk, notice how you walk. Do you walk in a very stiff, rigid way? Or are you in your hips when you're walking? Being in your hips is better for us, so that's going to be toning your sacral chakra. So that's another way to embody your feminine. Creativity, we mentioned that before. Drawing, painting, writing, photography, designing something. Anything that gets your creative juices flowing, moves you away from the linear to something more abstract. That's going to be really beneficial and start to build up your feminine energy. Having compassion for your emotions, we mentioned it before. If you're able to self-regulate, sit with your emotions, maybe placing your hands on your body when you're feeling anxious or when you're feeling upset about something. We're not pushing it down, we're just observing it. We're just sitting with it, seeing what's coming up, getting the information from it. Our emotions, our energy, they have information for us and they want to come up and out of the body, but we push it back down. So having some compassion for yourself when you're feeling dysregulated, unregulated, gently maybe breathing, not making any judgment about yourself or what you're feeling, and just sitting with it in that peace allows it just to move on and transform to something else. So definitely sitting with our emotions with compassion. The next thing is practicing emotional vulnerability. And this, I learned to do this through sharing. So I was always seen as the agony aunt for everybody, and I never really shared what I was going through. And then when I started my spiritual journey and started discovering Reiki and these different modalities, I was showing up at these wonderful workshops with other women, like-minded women. And I used that opportunity just to start to share a little bit more about myself with people, not to just be that, oh, I'm okay, I'm fine, but actually to share a bit more. And then when they shared something that resonated with me, to say that and to say why, yeah, this has also happened to me. So that's how we can practice emotional vulnerability. And this is good because it leads us to authenticity. We can't be authentic if we're hiding our true feelings and thoughts about things. And we can share these things in a compassionate, loving way. So practicing emotional vulnerability is definitely a feminine aspect and a divine feminine aspect. We talked about connecting to our body through movement and touch as well, whether that's a massage or some Reiki, which can be hands-on or hands-off, or hugging people, hugging your family. All of these are really beautiful, divine feminine practices. A difficult one for most people coming up next, practicing letting go of control, delegating, allowing people to do for you, to try things. And even if they make a mistake or don't do it right, it's fine, but we need to practice letting go of wanting to control everything so that we can be sure that everything is perfect. So we need to let go of that, which is the wounded masculine, and move into the divine feminine of, do you know what? I trust it's okay. I don't need to control this. It'll be fine. And just giving people the benefit of the doubt and trusting them. Another thing is to seek to heal, not fix. The fixer is the wounded feminine. The healer is the divine feminine. So healing can take place in silence, just by holding conversation with someone. Someone's talking to you and you're quiet, you're listening, you're giving them space to talk. That's healing. Fixing is as soon as they've said a sentence, you're already giving them the remedy and try this and do this, and you're throwing loads of different things from them. And that's obviously coming from a good place. I do it too, and we know it's coming from a good place. But the healer heals with the essence of the divine feminine, just heals with presence, with peace, with calm. That creating that energy around someone when they're talking to you is naturally healing and naturally raising their vibration. You can take it further by learning modalities that help you heal. Again, like Reiki. As a Reiki master, I'm always going to say Reiki. But there are many modalities out there that use energy or don't use energy, but that they allow you to move into more of a healing mode, particularly if that's something that is calling you. We do sometimes need to placate that, or we will go through life not feeling satisfied, always feeling like there's a void in us. So always listen to that. Surrounding yourself with beauty, colorful clothes, with nature, this will also embody the feminine. So when I was in the corporate world, I predominantly wore suits that were black and blue, maybe gray. And then when I wanted to connect more with my feminine, I started wearing color. I love orange, as you can see. I'd be wearing more colorful things. Orange is the color of the sacral chakra, so very much a feminine energy there. But just exploring color made me feel good. It lifted my energy. It made me feel more confident. It just brightened up my day and everyone else's day. So even that is wonderful. But going out in nature, walking amongst the trees or in a forest, or going to the sea and putting your feet in the sea or your feet on the grass, this is our true nature. We are nature. We're not separate from that. I always say that. So taking time to be in nature is really going to connect you more with your spiritual side and help you understand that we're all one. We're all working in harmony. Befriending others in the divine feminine, kind of what I said earlier about going to different workshops and being vulnerable with other women. I also formed some really beautiful friendships from doing that. And the people that I met, the women that I met when I was exploring these different courses, they're still in my life today. A couple of them are what I would call my best soul friends, because we can talk about anything. We can talk about, yes, we can talk about fashion, but we predominantly can talk about our lives. We can talk about spirituality. So all of me is just embracing those friendships, and then the same. So befriending other people who are in their divine feminine, whether it's, as I said, regardless of gender really, but people who are in their divine feminine will also help you be in your divine feminine more. When you do all of these things, or some of these things, you don't have to do all of them. If you're tending to your feminine energy, you will soften. You'll see a connection to a softer side of yourself that doesn't need to control everything. You'll connect more deeply to your inner wisdom, your insights, your intuition for sure. And you'll move with your innate ability to heal. You'll really move into that more for yourself and for others. Being in your divine feminine gives you more space to compassionately sit with your emotions, and you're carrying less and less of your pain with you everywhere you go. And you'll also attract other people who are in the divine feminine and the divine masculine, including friendships and love relationships. So if you're seeking someone who's in their divine masculine to have a relationship with, they are seeking someone who's in their divine feminine, not also their divine masculine. There'll be a clash there. You probably just end up being friends. But if you're seeking that love, then that's what we need to embody more of, if that's what you're seeking. But generally anyway, it's nice to embody that as our spiritual side, to move us more into flow, move away from forcing, and just being more open to new ideas and new things. So this is really the gift of the divine feminine. I'm hoping that this was helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, and share this information with anyone that you know. Comment wherever you're watching this video or listening to this podcast right now. If you want to learn more about nurturing your authentic relationships, then you're going to want to watch this video next. Until next time, walk in the energy of love and stay true to your heart. Thank you.